answers. Let's get booze.
Yo, yo, yo! Welcome to episode 155 of Thompsin and Other Disappointments, your twice-weekly medication, just in case you were feeling a bit too upbeat, just in case you needed bringing back down to earth. You might be familiar, dear listeners, with people who have low serotonin, no endorphins. They might need Prozac or whatever to help them through that gloomy Monday. Well, you should consider this show the polar opposite. When you are feeling a bit too positive and optimistic, you need to throw this on. Just give me 45 minutes. I will temper that spike in happiness by reminding you of all manner of awful things. I keep saying this, but you know what? I'm going to say it again. Partly because I like saying it, but mostly because there is a limit to my creativity. Think of me as your veritable Willy Wonka with my top hat and cane, and I'm just, dancing through this world of woe, pointing out every bad thing like it's a theme park attraction, like it's entertainment for you. That is me. It's like over here, there's melting ice caps. Over there, there's soaring inflation. There's a little bit of Brexit chaos. And I'm just prancing around the awfulness, just hosting it for you. This is why I refer to myself, in case, you wondered, in case this is the first time listening to this podcast, as a binfluencer. That's what I refer to myself as. If you found me on TikTok or Twitter, if this is your first time listening, influencers are on social media and they post inspiring sunset memes and uplifting Instagrams about hashtag Motivational Monday and all of that. Here we are binfluencers. We are not here to inspire you or waterboard you with wellness tips. I am here to expose you to the lunacy and futility of the world. And hopefully we'll get a few laughs out of it on the way. And maybe even an insightful comment or two. I don't know. Let's see how we go today. Joining me tonight for this Friday night feast of festive fun is a returning favourite. Second time on the show. Delighted to have her back. You will have no doubt seen her on Byline TV, on Channel 5's The Jeremy Vine Show. But she's also one half of the hit political podcast, The Trawl, which is now top 5 on Apple Podcasts, on which she and her co-host Gemma Forte go through the week's news and the Twitter dumpster fire it often spawns. Please welcome to the show my friend Marina bloody Purkiss. Woo!
Thanks, Aid. That was lovely. Although, does that make me a binfluencer as well?
I guess so, yeah, by proxy. An honorary binfluencer, like a sort of visiting academic of binfluencery-dom or something. How are you doing? How's it going, man?
I'm absolutely fine. I just returned from Tesco where the vegetable shelves are a little bit bare.
Yes. Yeah, there's a big thing about this at the moment, isn't there? I've got to be honest, I was surprised so many Brits cared this much about fruit and veg.
Tomatoes, in particular.
Specifically tomatoes, yeah. I mean, I think I said this in our chat group earlier, like we're only a matter of hours away before tomatoes become the new avocado, the sort of snowflake woke mascot vegetable. Is it even a vegetable or is it a fruit? I never know.
It's a fruit because it's got seeds in it.
Oh, right. There we go.
That's the litmus test for fruit.
Yeah. Here I was sort of waxing lyrical about this being a sort of, dystopian piss take podcast. It's actually turned out to be quite educational, certainly for me.
Did you know Therese Coffey is already saying that we should be eating turnips instead?
I had seen a few references. So this is the thing, do you ever jump on Twitter and somebody, there's out of 20 tweets that you scan down, there's about 3 or 4 that reference the thing that day. And it's like, what the fuck is it with turnips today?
Turnips is trending.
Yeah, what comedy references? What am I missing here?
Do you know what? I actually haven't. I need to caveat this for your listeners. I haven't checked that. So I don't know for sure if Therese Coffey has said that we should be eating turnips. I think she could say it in all probability. So yeah, I haven't checked it. So please go and do your own due diligence on that one.
I like that. I like that you're encouraging people to fact check me. I can tell you now, the listeners of this show, I'm not sure they care if everything that comes out of my mouth is 100% accurate. But yeah, but the turnip thing, even if it's inaccurate, even if she didn't say that, I almost feel like it's fine, because if I had Therese Coffey here, I would almost be like, but what do you think it says about you that everyone believed that you said that shit? Like it's just as damning.
I know. Nothing surprising anymore.
No, it's not. Let's get into this. I'm really keen to pick your brain. It's a big week for Brexit for two reasons. Number one, your Brexit special podcast exploded.
Oh, it did, yeah.
So that's cool.
Wild, that
yeah.
hit like a silly amount of downloads.
Yeah.
People actually give a toss.
I know. It's quite reassuring, isn't it? Because it's like, you know, I mean, I perpetuate this idea relentlessly, but people kind of buy into this idea that we're surrounded by idiots and that nobody gives a shit, and you know, the whole country's gone crazy. But I think the success of your podcast in that respect and the feedback that I've seen of it suggest, like, it's reassuring, right? Like, sort of convinces you people do care.
No, I also think there's a bit of a gap that in the market that we're filling. I think you're filling it as well with this podcast, where there's lots of intelligent chat out there, and you've got the news agents, and you've got the rest is politics, and that is brilliant. But there's not this sort of commentary on the shit show. This real honest, the way you chat about it with your mates down the pub. What the fuck is happening? They are all bastards, basically.
Yeah.
And I think that, and we do it, by the way. It's with, we are, I'm in the detail. I'm very much a detail person. Gemma's witty as hell, and I think we're like a what's a good combo? Like a cannon and ball.
Yeah, you're like sort of end of the pier comedy, sort of tag teaming each other, but in a sort of political context. I like that. Yeah,
and I think people like that. It's dark at the moment, right? It's grim. The news is grim. Politics is grim, and it's just that with a bit of levity, which I think people need.
Yeah, and there's something so like quintessentially British about that, isn't there? Which I suppose is apt considering we're talking about Brexit, but there's something really, that Blitz spirit, that gallows humor thing that I'm always on about on other episodes. But like when you all feel like you're in the shit together and the country's going down the toilet, there's just something comedic devicey that sparks that, I don't know, sort of generates a bit of magic to it.
It's an if you don't laugh, you will cry situation.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about Brexit. I hope my listeners are not fed up with this as a topic. I know it's been pulled to pieces a lot over the last few years, but it is a big week for our history of departure with the European Union. There were rumours that Sunak had already cut his deal with the EU about a fortnight ago, and it was some sort of like stealth operation, so to speak, which I thought was interesting because you could kind of view that in two or three ways. Like, number one, it could be seen like he's so efficient, he just sort of smashed out this deal to solve the protocol offhand, like it ain't no thing, right? And then number two, you could also look at it like this is Sunak showing leadership, like it very much is a big deal. And Sunak wants to be seen as a geopolitical player, like a Blair, or like a problem solver on the island of Ireland. And then the third one, which is the one that I actually subscribe to, is that he's just so shit scared of his own party that he has to effectively run away and have these private conversations to get the shit nailed down before the ERG, and more importantly before Boris Johnson hear about it and then start causing him problems. And it feels like those fears aren't without foundation, right? Because it seems like, Johnson was rumoured, I think 2 or 3 days ago, rumoured to be rallying the support of about 100 Tories to try and scupper whatever this deal was. Like, it's still not even clear what the deal is. And he's like, no,
I know. Oh, he's already coming out saying it'd be a great mistake. He is, of course, referring to something in particular, but it's all speculation. Like you say, this deal, no one knows what the hell's in it just yet. And actually, by the way, your what you were saying, you think the options are for Rishi Sunak there. I think it's a combination.
Okay.
But no matter what's in the detail, he has to get it through Parliament. So it doesn't matter if the rebellion starts now or then. There's going to be a rebellion because any concession is going to be seen as a betrayal of Brexit. But the bit that Boris Johnson is the wave, I think Boris Johnson is going to ride is the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill concession. So obviously this is that piece of legislation that the UK government put together itself, which basically allows us to unilaterally withdraw from the withdrawal agreement. So again, what the hell? As if you can't do that with your mortgage, can you? I can't. Can
No.
you just unilaterally? I can't do it with my phone contract. So how on earth can you do it with an international treaty that you bloody signed and you offered up as a win, you cretinous bastards? And then also the thing I don't like is that our own government have said that this breaks international law, this piece of legislation, in a limited and specific way, albeit. The EU have said it is illegal and unrealistic, and they've talked about, legal action if they pursue it. So actually, Rishi Sunak, if he ditches this bit of it, and it only relates to the protocol, right? If he ditches this bit of it, that actually is diplomacy. That could see progress past this impasse, past this bloody purgatory that we're in. And yet they're saying, nah. And like you say, it's going to be the purists, the ideologues, the ERG. They are all going to ride that wave. And do you know what it is? It's going to be a wave back into number 10.
Yeah.
For Johnson.
I think that's the depressing thing, isn't it? It's like there's no sense that they're behaving this way or rejecting whatever this deal is because they have the interests of the country close to their heart, or they want to do what's best for the people or get the best trade deal even. It's just, what can we do to win? Or certainly on Johnson, like, is there anything that Boris Johnson wouldn't set fire to if it meant that it got him back into number 10?
He couldn't give a shit. The funniest thing as well, when you think about it like this, is he's done this before and it got him into number 10. He did it with Theresa May. And the funny thing is then he was at least, he led the rebellion against her Chequers deal. Now he's leading a rebellion against sort of his own deal, really. Yeah. It's pathetic. And the thing I think, like, people, I have to stress this so people really know how insane this is, because the whole country got dragged through the Brexit shit because of the career aspirations of people like Boris Johnson. Right, because back when Theresa May was trying to get her Chequers deal through, I think it's an important detail. I know it's in the past, but it's so pertinent to now. The first time it went through Parliament, she was trying to get it through. Do you know who actually voted for it, supported it? You wouldn't believe it. Boris Johnson.
Yeah. And
Dominic Raab and Jacob Rees-Mogg. But only when they saw that it wasn't going to go through Parliament did they have their aha moment. And were like, do you know what? This is our route into number 10. And it worked for them. After that, do you remember he went out talking about how her Chequers deal was a suicide vest?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then so they've gone from supporting it, literally voting for it, to suicide vest, giving the EU the detonator. And you know what? It worked for them because the three of them ended up as PM, Foreign Secretary and Leader of the House. And they're doing it again.
Well, it's even more ridiculous than that, isn't it? It's sort of... So when Boris Johnson was Foreign Secretary, he supported the deal that Theresa May was working on. Then he reneged on it and said he didn't support it. And then when he did become Prime Minister, it was basically her deal. Like, in substance, he just repackaged it and then put it out on, like, nice little Twittery slick adverts saying, Boris's oven-ready deal. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then
he swapped the backstop for the protocol. Yeah. And he did what she said she wouldn't do, which is put a border down the Irish Sea, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And now we are, like a couple of years ahead, and they have the gall, the fucking temerity to stand there. Even though they stood up, people like Ian Duncan Smith in the House of Commons going like, I don't need to look at any more of this deal. I support it. I think it's great. Let's get it over the line. And now he's one of the main cheerleaders a couple of years on going like, well, no, this is a...
I know. There's a wonderful clip. You need to dig it out. You should put this in before you send it out. I don't know if you do that, but there is a clip, and he's like standing in the House of Commons. If there is anything that it isn't in here, we've thrashed it out. We've spent and he says like an amount of hours. I think it's like something like 300 hours, which actually is bloody nothing in the grand scheme of things, and given the impact that this legislation would have on people, on lives, on livelihoods. And if there's anything, we've thrashed it around. Clearly, you don't know what the hell you were talking about, you dullard. You should be nowhere. This is the thing that pains me. I used to really look up to people that worked in politics and be like, God, they must be so clever. They must be so clever. These people are so thick. I wouldn't put them in charge of Budgeons.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no disrespect to Budgeons. Like, if Budgeons were thinking about sponsoring the show, maybe. I mean, like, I'm not saying anything. That was all Marina. I used to
Sorry.
work in
No
Budgeons
offense
when
to
I was
Budgeons.
16. I'm going to hold Budgeons close to my heart. Yeah, I mean, look, it's so with Ian Duncan Smith, he is specifically ripe to be called out because he stood up there in the House of Commons, but then also because when the time was right for them to start reneging on the deal, he was the first one in line to say, and I don't think I'm paraphrasing. I think this is almost word for word what he said. It was like, but there, buried in the fine print or buried in the detail. I was like, motherfucker, like you had your chance to scrutinize the deal. Don't come back and say like, oh, buried in the fine print of the contract I fucking signed. That's your
Contract
problem.
is the fine print. That is the whole contract is the fine print.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't buried in there. Again, you've got the best of the best to unearth this stuff, to point this out to you. And if you haven't read it, so many people didn't read it. Do you remember there was that was it Victoria Prentice? I think she was the fishing minister, and she didn't read it. She admitted because she was doing a nature trail with her nearby school.
Yeah.
And she's the fishing. Like you'd think it'd be high on her priority list.
Yeah.
To read that documentation.
None of them read them though, do they? Like, this is the problem with politics in the UK, is it's just completely at the behest of like donor and whip culture, or certainly that's my perspective of it, is like you would like to believe, as it sounds you did in years gone by, that people get into it for the right reasons, to make improvements in the local community and to represent the people who voted them in, and then get up to Westminster and say, look, my constituency would feel much more comfortable if we had this funding to do X, Y, and Z. And maybe there's an element of that. Maybe there's a few good apples buried in there deep. But it seems to me like once you get into the Westminster machine, you could have the best intentions in the world, but somebody's going to give you a tap on the shoulder and say, what do you mean you're not going to vote for this? You have to vote for this. Like, I'm the whip. If you don't vote for this, you're looking at deselection, defunding for your campaign. You won't get, you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours. We could get you a new leisure centre. That'd help you, wouldn't like? And then you're just completely, enthralled to the machine. Like you're the slave, it is the master. You can't operate with free will or vote with your conscience on things. And so then when a Brexit bill or a clean waters bill or whatever the case may be gets presented to you and your staff, you actually don't have to read it because you already know which way you have to vote.
Exactly. And also they're too busy. We've got second jobs aid. When are they going to read all this?
Yeah. I mean,
and also if you've got it, I do think as well, I know it's a really cynical thought, but I think everyone's got a price. And I think a lot of people, they get into it possibly for the right reasons, but there might be too much temptation there because, if they, what's the term? Graze your hand with silver, your palm with silver, the one.
Yeah.
I think they get a feeling for it, and then they see like people getting shitloads of money from, I don't know, Deloitte, or who was that, the laboratories place with Pattinson.
Oh yeah,
remember the one.
I can't remember the name either.
Anyway, but I think they start to see, actually, do you know what? This is very lucrative if I play the game right. And now I've learned that the people that I think are the worst, the ones that are in the cabinet, for example, the ones that are the really strong voices you hear, are the ones that are in it to raid the public purse and change policy to basically benefit them and their ilk. Because if you look at some of the backbench Tories, probably are harmless, but the really hungry ones, I think those are the ones that just do it for the money. And there's so much money sloshing around. Those like, even who's their new, is it education secretary? Like, they've all, like, her husband like won a massive contract at one of the government contracts during the pandemic, and we're talking like tens of millions of pounds. Like, look at Nadeem Zahawi. And by the way, I don't think there's a problem if you're mega rich. I don't think that should preclude you from going into politics. I sort of question your reasons why. It's £87,000 or whatever it is. But I do when their actions serve to only benefit the few, and then they've got all of these little backhanders happening as well. That just, to me, says you're just in it for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and I think like you couldn't ask for a better example of like the bad reasons, the bad drivers for bringing people into politics than Rishi Sunak himself. Like, here is a guy who's worth, like, him and his wife are worth, they're billionaires, right?
She's the daughter of a billionaire.
And
I'd imagine she's a billionaire. Yeah.
he's like ex-Goldman's, right? And so he's got a few bob also.
Mm.
I guess the point I'm getting at is neither one of them are struggling. Both of them could make significantly more money outside of number 10. So what does that tell you? What conclusion could you draw from that? It's like, it's not just about the salary, because a PM gets paid, you know, what, 150, 160? Then you get private residence. That's not bad in central London, right? You don't have to worry about rent. But it's nothing compared to what he could earn in banking. So it's a bit like, I don't believe that you would go into to become prime minister for the salary. And there's no evidence so far that you're doing it to better people's lives, to increase social mobility, to give people a shot, to solve the housing crisis, to fix the NHS. No evidence for that whatsoever. So the only answer that is left in the absence of all of those is that this is about connections and about post-parliamentary opportunities, Boris Johnson being a fantastic example of that.
Exactly that. Exactly. So you think about, I think Boris Johnson, the more he's in high office, the more his stock is up, the more he's going to be in demand to do these types of speeches where he's getting advances of like £1 million plus. Did I read 4 million, or was it 2 million? 2 million possibly, because he's just gone and bought that massive house in Oxfordshire, which is again, there's obviously speculation that is to do with him changing constituency from Uxbridge, where I believe there's a majority of 7,000. And in this, if he were to change his constituency to this new one, which is I don't know, it's Oxfordshire somewhere, the majority is circa 22,000, I think, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that to me sounds like they're sort of parachuting him in. I do think buying that mansion is interesting though. And I get that he's earned a fair wedge in the last few months. But I'm also like, has he really earned like 4 million? Really?
No.
And who's paying him 4 million to speak? Like I don't want to, be mean about people who have trouble speaking, but he's not I wouldn't say he's a particularly great speaker, no?
It's not about his speaking, it's about who he is, surely. Because his speaking, he's not this great orator that people talk about. But do you know what someone said to me, and it really made me think, I don't know if this is me tin full hat and all that, but are they really paying him for a speech? Or is there something else going on? Is the speech payment like a type of money laundering sort of?
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm quite ashamed to say that I've never really considered that. But yeah, if you were a hedge fund manager, if you owned a medical, pharmaceutical company, and you wanted to donate a lot of money to the Tories and gain influence, you can't do that within the parliamentary rule. Well, you can, like, up to a certain level, but you can't pay fucking, here's £1 million just off the bat, like. So yeah, it would make sense, wouldn't it?
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Interesting. So okay, so let's get a little bit back to Brexit. So I guess the area that I was interested in touching on with this is like, what happens next? Because we have Johnson flying over to Ukraine. We've got Johnson attending the World Economic Forum. We've got Johnson doing a little whistle-stop tour of the US.
We've got Johnson recommending EU membership to Ukraine.
Yeah, Johnson saying, this is what I would do if I was leader. I would give them fighter jets. I would do you get this idea that he either thinks he's still prime minister or he really, really wants to be prime minister.
He's trying to massively undermine the prime minister.
Yeah, like a graceful ex-prime minister would be like, look, I'm not going to tell you what I would do because it's not my time. The prime minister now is Rishi Sunak. I suggest you go and talk. That would be a nice thing to do, wouldn't it?
It would. Also, the thing I think it's always missed, and I understand why, because who the fuck's talking about it, right? But when Johnson was foreign secretary, sorry. Ukraine were demanding weapons. Ukraine were demanding support, and we didn't give it to them for fear of provoking Putin. And don't forget, like, he blamed Putin's invasion of Crimea on the bloody EU.
Yeah.
So this idea that he's this war hero, that we should be going to him, well, no, actually, no, stop it.
It is, it's strange, isn't it? Like, so I guess it's easy for him outside of number 10 to be campaigning and pretending to be this very pro-Ukraine guy. And I don't want to bash him unnecessarily. I think he probably acted as well as we could expect him to in the immediate aftermath of the invasion of Ukraine, and showing support for Ukraine. But I do think it's interesting. There's a real puzzle, like a question mark, over his conduct as foreign secretary, his close proximity to Lebedev, the fact he sat on the Russia report for so long, the fact he shook off his security detail to go and party with Lebedev immediately after a NATO meeting. Like, there's a lot of shit to Boris Johnson.
I know. I sort of want to say to Zelensky, do you know about that? Do you know about that, mate? Are you all right with that? I feel like that's a big question I've got for him.
Yeah, but you would hope that somebody like Zelensky, in Zelensky's position, would be like, all right, I've got to be sensible here. Let's not trust this guy too much. People say that, but he seems to be like, oh yeah, this guy's my best friend.
Because I guess he's being all strategic there. He knows he's got a use.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I have to assume that Zelensky is well briefed, and that people have said, look, this guy is all about having a photo shoot with you and using you, and, by all means use him and use it like as a stepping stone onto the world stage to ask for more weapons and greater support from the West. But just, play it safe, Zelensky.
Absolutely.
I wonder what will happen with... So, do you remember at the beginning of Brexit, right? The whole idea with David Cameron announcing that we were going to have this referendum was... I mean, in his way, he was like, we're going to put this question to bed for a generation.
It's to bed.
Yeah.
It's gone. It's gone to sleep.
And then it didn't go his way. And he was like, well, okay, see you later. So off he goes. And then there was this sort of feeling, well, look, we've had the referendum. Okay, I didn't vote to leave. But as long as it's well planned and executed and it's done in a measured way, maybe over a decade, to gently extricate ourselves from these institutions that we helped to architect, maybe there's a benefit to it or a long-term goal that it's just not occurred to me. And it's instead of that, it was, chaotic, and we were dragged out and people didn't want to scrutinize stuff. And but again, there was this feeling that, have we put it to bed now? Do we just accept that we are leaving and then that's it, it's over? But it feels like this attempt to end the Tory psychodrama at every juncture. It's been like, well, it's probably done now. It's probably over. No, I think it's over now. Is that the credits rolling? Okay, curtain down. Yeah, that bit's over again. And at every fucking juncture, again, it's just like, oh shit, the ERG are flaring up, and Johnson's over here, and now it's the moderates against the fucking headbangers again. And it feels like, again, now this week, it's almost like we're back in 2019 again.
Yeah, they're never gonna. We're basically living through endless, bitch fests of the Tory party. There's so many, there are parties within parties now, and a number of parties within parties now. And like you say, someone said, there's probably no point in negotiating with the UK government at the moment, because they're not going to be able to pass anything. So through Parliament, and it's a valid point. So Rishi Sunak could come back with what would feel like a sensible deal, but he's going to have to contest with ERG, like you said, and all the people that want to join the rebellion. And also, can you imagine if the only way he could get his bill through was by leaning on the support of Labour, like the opposition, for example, which Keir Starmer has offered to do in a bold move. But where the hell does that leave? Where the hell does that leave him? I think he's going to be in a real pickle here. If he pulls this off, credit to him. Although not that much credit, because I still think he's an absolute bellend. And he is also one of the people that voted for the withdrawal agreement that he's now having to fix. But I don't think this goes away until the Tories are out of power. I think you've got too many people in there who are just egomaniacs, who are ideologues, who are thick as shit, who are there desperate to hang on to a job no matter what. And how can you? They're ungovernable.
Yeah, there's a really important point that you've tapped into there, where I guess the caricature of the Conservatives for a lot of people is this sort of, top hat, kind of monocle, bankery types, Jacob Rees-Mogg looking motherfuckers. And there is a lot of that, that sort of Etonian high society stuff. But as you've alluded to, there are parties within the party. You have that sort of high society Etonian element, absolutely. Then you have this new school, this new class of like formerly Red Wall territories.
Lee Anderson, Gullis,
Lee
people
Anderson,
like that.
Gullis, Ben Bradley, Scott Benton. I always sort of refer to them as like
Wrong'uns?
Wrong'uns is good. Cunts. No, wait. No, I was going to say like high risk, low rent. Like that's how I see them. Is like these were people who were shoehorned into the electoral process relatively last minute, because the Tories never dreamed that they would win those seats. It's like, well, look, who's free to stand as a Tory MP? Will you do it? Like, can you take 6 weeks off to campaign from your job? Oh, you can. Oh, wicked. Okay, well, we get you. It like slim pickings, and they got these people in, and then against the odds. Lo and behold, Boris Johnson's up there banging his Brexit drum, and these constituencies flipped, and now we've got this weird sort of coterie of, as I say, sort of like high risk, un-PR trained, sometimes quite offensive types. And then
look, I'm all for diversity, by the way. I like the fact that we've got people from different backgrounds coming into Parliament. I think it's a good thing, but it's still somehow groupthink, because even though they are from different, social classes, if we're going to talk about that, it doesn't matter one jot if they all think the same. It's a bit like, how they peddled a huge win for diversity when we had Suella Braverman and Rishi Sunak and Sajid Javid. And that to me that's not true diversity. I got a whole pile on Twitter, people calling me racist because of this. And I think this is, because that to me is tokenism. That's not, because if you bring people into a role and they think exactly the same as the people that were there before that have dominated for years and years, i.e. the white man, right? White British man, then it's not diversity. It's not a win for diversity. The idea is that they bring with them thinking from their diverse backgrounds that is different, that brings a different perspective that will actually look to also benefit the people that come from similar backgrounds as them. Like I would want to, if I was going into Parliament, I'd like, want to help state school kids or kids of immigrants or whatever. Yeah. I want to do that because I benefit from that. But if you just close the door behind you or pull the ladder up, like Suella Braverman, who bloody studied in the EU, like I think she studied like EU law, so it was like her degree, and then she did Erasmus. She did the Erasmus scheme, which has now been replaced by something called the Alan Turing scheme, and it's a pile of shit. Of course it is. Yeah. But that's why I hate that. Don't give me diversity. Like, bloody isn't.
It's a difficult thing for a white, superficially middle class guy from the home counties to comment on. But yes, I always think it's not exclusive to politics either. Like I used to work at a professional services firm years ago, and they were big on diversity, as you would expect for big accountancy firms, and but it sort of started and stopped at rainbow pamphlets and having like LGBTQ day and yay for this person over here and yay for that person, and look, we've hired a person in that comes from this ethnic background. And there was like a few of us going like, if the people of colour that you're hiring in, and I worked in HR there, I was like, if the people that you're hiring in that are from different backgrounds, if they're all from actually like upper middle class, like international school families, like what problem are you solving exactly? Because yeah, like you're right. There is a form of tokenism to it, because it's like, yeah, we've hired a black guy. Yes, we've hired a South Asian woman. That's fucking wicked. Well, cool. Okay, what's the net take home of both of their family? Oh, they're fucking millionaires and they went to private school. Well, fucking great job, excellent. You've solved diversity.
Is it any surprise? Is it any surprise that we've got a government of people that don't give a fuck about state schools, for example, don't give a fuck about people who are on the breadline, that are unemployed, that are really struggling, that are never going to reach anywhere near dizzy heights? Are we surprised? No, these people have never had to even integrate with them, a load of them. They don't even know how to. Rishi Sunak doesn't know how to use a bloody debit card. He has to borrow a Kia Rio at the petrol station to try and pretend he's normal.
Yeah.
He has to talk about a McDonald's breakfast that he ordered. I can't remember what the item was, only for us to discover that they'd stopped selling it 4 years ago. He literally lies to
Yeah.
pretend that he's normal, that he's one of us.
Do you remember the Partridge-esque, it's not really an interview, but a little like meeting? He talked to two schoolboys and they were talking about
Coke.
yeah.
Yeah,
I like Coke. Sometimes I'll have a Diet Coke or a cherry Coke. I remember. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Because he doesn't know. He does not know how to behave around normal people.
No.
Like, just...
But
this is the problem.
It's not even like sort of just social interaction. It's the thing that fascinates me is like, so it like, even if you remove him from one-on-one, if you just look at the way that he interacts with institutions, it suggests that this is somebody who has absolutely no idea about the real world, but also has no understanding of how the real world would view his interactions with things that don't exist in the real world. And what I mean by that is so state schools, you and I will know this, but maybe listeners don't, that state schools in terms of like real terms funding over the last like 12 years has just fucking tanked. And yet funding for private schools has gone up and up and up. And this is a stat that gets banded around on panel discussions and news analysis shows and so on. People are very aware of this, and people see the sizes of the classrooms that their kids go to increasing. And they read the headlines about how schools are thinking of closing at like 2 or 1 o'clock on a Friday because they can't afford their heating bills or they don't have the facilities and so on. So state school education is suffering. And then he's so detached from this that he doesn't even understand the optics of like, yeah, that's bad. I won't do anything to help there. But what I will do is I'll personally donate 50 grand to this private school. It's like, are you out of your fucking mind? Do you know how bad that looks, Rishi? Like, well, I was trying to do a nice thing. Like, well, you insane.
I genuinely think they lack something. There's almost like, they almost lack a piece of their DNA that makes them able to be like this. It's like a lacking of compassion, like just human connection, And I feel like there's so much of that and I see it the more and more this is all new to me, right? I've only started doing media appearances and stuff, I think, just over a year. This is all, spiraled. But what I see when I meet these sort of right wingers or these people in real life is that they genuinely don't care. They do not care. They go on TV, they spout their nonsensical bullshit opinion, they rehash these right wing like headlines, and then they go home and enjoy their day. They just don't care. And some of them, and this is a really cynical thing, not going to name any names, have basically said they just say it for a reaction.
Yeah.
Or they have to say the line that their paper needs them to say.
It's
not what they believe.
Yeah. So I think so I've heard this off other people. I alluded to it when I was talking to Ian Dale last week.
Name drop, clang.
And yeah, cheeky name drop. Big things, Marina, big things. People are noticing. But yeah, I was like, I've heard from people who have taken part in various discussions. I think he thought I meant you, but I didn't. I've heard from people who have said, that when they talk to right wingers in the green room afterwards, after they've had a spicy debate about whether the NHS should be privatised or, whether we should send Shamima Begum back or whatever, they then freely admit, once the cameras are off and the boom mic has been moved away or whatever, then they say, I don't really believe that shit. And then it's like, what? Like, you were just shouting and banging it. And they're like, yeah, I just say, I just like making good TV. That's what I like to do. And then you're right. Then they go off home.
It ties into that Fox News story, which is off the scale insane, where Fox News anchors like Tucker Carlson and Hannity, they know that what is being told to their viewers, they know there's actually text message correspondence showing, they know this is horseshit.
Yeah.
And yet they have to tell their viewers what they want to hear. Otherwise, people will switch off. In fact, Tucker Carlson alluded to one of his messages where a reporter for GB News actually told the truth. And because it wasn't what the audience wanted to hear, Tucker Carlson was basically saying she needed to be fired because the share price of Fox News was dropping. Like, what the hell? That is pure dystopia, that they are just feeding lies because it keeps their share price up. That to me is insane. And the other thing about, so just to go back to the chatting to people that have got opposing views to us. Like, I don't mind having a disagreement with people, and I can still go for a drink with you if you think we should have really low taxes or whatever. Like that sort of like small C conservative, fine. But what we've got now, and the people that still support the Tories today, and like, sending people to Rwanda and, basically vilifying the poor and stuff like that. I can't put it behind me. I can't just. That's not a difference of opinion. That's a difference in values that are really serious. So I was on a show recently and had a really good chat with the person off air, and actually, quite friendly chat. Then we went on air. Views were expressed. I realised I really thought their views were abhorrent. And after the show, they alluded to us going out together. And how do I put that, Aid?
Yeah.
Nah. I don't want friends like that. I don't want friends that have got those views. It's not politics. It's not, that to me isn't politics. That's morality.
Yeah. It reminds me of that story that was kicking around about 3 or 4 months ago about James O'Brien was out
Kettner's.
in Soho.
Kettner's, yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 2 guys. Was it a Guido Fawkes guy, or was it Guido?
Richard Tice.
Richard Tice. Yes. Yeah, you're right. It was Tice and Majid Nawaz, right?
Yeah.
And they bump into him, and they were like this sort of situation that you're alluding to, like, we're all friends in media, let's all go for a drink. And he's just like, get the fuck out of my face. Like,
exactly. I know exactly how he feels because I can't park it. And then, we have to have like photos sometimes on Jeremy Vine, and my body language, Gemma laughs at me. Gemma Forte, she's my podcast, as you mentioned, partner. She laughs because they always put these photos out there, and I can't get further away. My body language because I don't want to be near you. That sounds really horrible. But again, we're not talking about taxes here. We're talking about people, their treatment of people, and that I know struggle with.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's the dismissive, like, it's almost like sort of callous as entertainment for them is how it comes off. It's like, if you're talking about a policy like Rwanda, that to me sounds really callous. That sounds like taking really desperate people who may actually have family here who could help them, and you're removing that opportunity and that safety from them, stuffing them on a plane with God knows who, and flying them off to a place that they have no connection with, where there might be a language barrier that already had human rights problems like only a few years ago. Like, I'm not pretending that Rwanda, I'm sure they've come along, leaps and bounds in the last 2 years, and maybe it is an amazing place, but that to me seems ill thought through.
I don't care where it is, though. This is the point. Even if they were sending them to bloody Switzerland, the fact is, you don't just deport people to a place that they don't want to go to. That's trafficking. Like, you can't do it. And the thing, sorry, just on this as well, is this whole thing with these culture wars and Rwanda and now migrants in hotels, and the fact that we learn, not just from Lee Anderson, who said that quite a bit out loud, that the Tory party and Rishi Sunak is going to run culture wars to try and win the next election. This to me really gets me again because, and it shows me that Rishi Sunak, though he looks all like, chef from Ratatouille, the fact is he's bad. He's a bad apple, because culture wars aren't just for fun. Culture wars stoke hate, and they have consequences. We saw the riots in Knowsley. We saw that, the terrorist attack on the immigration processing centre in Dover. This isn't the last of it. We saw the killing of, I'm not saying this is down to Rishi Sunak, but culture wars, the transgender girl, Brianna Ajay, I think her name is. We saw that. Like, this is what happens when you stoke up hate and you divide a country. And also, what leader in their right mind, Aid, wants a country like warring with itself and angry? Like, you don't. Like, if I'm the head of this family, I would want everyone getting along, and I'm trying to parent. It's a bit like Biden. His speech, I loved his speech. He said, I want to govern for all of you, not just for the Democrats. I want to govern for all of you. And that is what a good leader would do. A shitty leader needs to stoke division to try and win. And I think that's abhorrent for him.
Yeah. But it's also like, there's a shamelessness to it as well, isn't it? It's like, they will stoke this stuff because it serves as a distraction, because they know that the Express and the Telegraph will pick it up, and then people on the morning news rounds will be like, oh yeah, there's a riot up there and it was about this, and what do you think about asylum seekers? And then that becomes the story of the day, rather than COVID mismanagement or government corruption or And it's callous, it's cowardly, and now that we know that that is the route that they're taking for the next general election, because I mean, what the fuck else have they got? It's not like they can go, shit, we've been found out, we were going to do the culture war, maybe now we'll focus on our successes instead. Like, there's fucking nothing. Where?
It's just like they've got nothing going for them anymore. So that the other person that defected from Tory party to Labour was, I can't remember his name actually, but he was another person. He's like a business leader or something like that, and he publicly came out and said that there's no economic policy now. There's nothing worth staying them for. Actually, Labour have got a more sound economic policy, probably because they're talking about closer alignment with the EU, which anyone can see is what this country needs desperately. Like, I don't even care now. It isn't even about rejoin. I appreciate that's probably not going to happen for some time, right? It's a crying shame, but just for the greater good, closer alignment, and whatever. I mean, make Brexit work. Jesus Christ, it kills me every time I hear it a little bit, but I get why he's doing it. But just do that so we don't have all of this shit. We don't have no cherry tomatoes. What am I going to do with no cherry tomatoes?
I know. It's the story of the day. I've been waxing lyrical the last few days about like how we have these culture war stories, these sort of symbolism fueled tabloid tales that were just served up. Like yesterday it was Shamima. Now today it's tomatoes. Last week it was whether God has a penis. It's like every fucking week there's another sort of symbolism over substance thing.
Yes, bollocks. Absolutely bollocks. And it's also, it just really dumbs down dialogue.
Yeah.
Really dumbs it down. Like, we shouldn't be talking about this menial crap. We should be talking about the stuff that really matters. But it's like people are drawn to sensationalism. They're drawn to stuff that provokes a reaction. It's the reason why, like, Jerry Springer was a great show. Like, not a great show, but a compelling show, right? People want to be shocked and the sensible stuff, the nitty gritty, the detail. It's not sexy. It's not appealing. And I think unfortunately, that's part of why people are so apathetic, because it takes time. You can't just dip your toe into politics these days, can you? Or if like for me, I am every day falling down a rabbit hole. I swear to God, my husband is going to divorce me because he's like, hello, Marina, hello. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
On my phone, reading, like, and I think it's done like that on purpose. It's by design. Keep people apathetic. Keep people thinking they're all the same.
Yeah.
They're all as bad as each other. They won't vote, because it's those people that don't go out and vote that could really shift the dial.
Yeah. Well, I think that will probably. I'm not really in the business of like electoral predictions, but I think probably that's what will clinch it for Labour. So I know they've got a huge lead at the moment, but a lot can happen once the Conservative like media machine starts kicking in and starts throwing out lies every 2 seconds of the campaign.
I mean, we found out about this donkey sanctuary. So what we're going to find out? I mean, what is there? What is left? I'm like, please, Keir Starmer, don't do anything friggin' stupid. Don't go and visit a hooker. Don't have done anything when you were a teenager. Don't have smoked pot. Don't do anything, please.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. So I did a TikTok live last week, and somebody was saying, you know, what's going to happen at the GE? Do you think it will be like, because at the time it was the big 29-point lead had just come out, and everyone was like, you know, Labour majority, and then the SNP business happened tail end of last week. And everyone was like, well, you know, maybe Labour could retake Scotland. This could really be like Blair all over again. And I was like, the only thing that could sort of fuck this now for Starmer, because like the Tories are sort of backed into a Brexity corner. Like we've touched on this, the factions within the Tory party. The only thing that could really scupper it is if there were a slew of sleazy stories, like if Emily Thornberry was out, you know, having a threesome with someone, and Yvette Cooper's over here doing crystal meth, and then, you know, if it frightened those floating voters in the shires, if they were like, look, you know, I'm not, you know, I thought the Tories are bad, but I'm not on board with all of this, you know, sleazy travel lodge fuckathons that they seem to be up to, you know, that could ruin it for them.
See, they'd get credit for me if it was in a travel lodge. A bit of fair play.
I reckon Travelodge would be happy. They'd be like, finally, we've moved on from the fucking asylum seeker stuff. Like,
I can't imagine Emily Thornberry partaking in such antics. She's your like heroine, isn't she?
Yeah, she seems pretty cool to me. She seems like a
Mm.
good egg. Now that I've
Yeah.
had Ian Dale on, name drop again, I feel like because I get the feeling that he and Thornberry are quite chummy. So I'm gonna make a play. I'm gonna try and get her on.
Mm. Oh, I'm going on Ian Dale's Cross Questions soon, actually. So that'll be nice. I was on with and Jeremy Vine with him. He's actually quite pleasant.
Yeah, good.
I was going to say something about Thornberry, and it's just gone. Oh, that was it. Emily Thornberry, when she talks about Brexit, by the way, and making Brexit work, which is obviously the line that they all have to say
line,
in public. Yeah, the party line. I think she doesn't even feel comfortable saying it. She doesn't believe it. She doesn't believe it at all. And I've spoken to another person, another Labour. I hope I'm okay to say this, but a Labour. I'm not going to say the name, but a Labour MP. I spoke to at a party, and they basically said that, look, let's just get in, and then we'll deal with Brexit.
So that's interesting because so my other question I was going to ask you was about like when are things going to stop getting shitter, basically, like, you know, how we've gone from like, you know, Brexit, the pandemic, and then climate change is getting more serious, and cost of living crisis, housing crisis, like all of these things just keep getting like life is just getting harder and harder. And I was going to
just quickly, can I stop that? While I was in Tesco, the formula that I buy for my kid, I've got a 4-month-old baby, went from it used to be £10.50. It's now £14.20.
Yeah.
How the hell? So when I was £10.50 with my 2-year-old, so in 2 years, it's £14.20.
Yeah.
What the bejesus?
Is it like the pound is weaker now, or because it costs more to logisticsy it in, like over the border, or I don't know.
Who knows? But how the hell? Like, I do all right. My husband does all right. How the hell are other people affording this? Our nursery fees went up. Like our energy. How the hell? And like people's mortgages are spiraling. Like, I don't know where this ends. And I just, how the hell have we got here?
Riots. That's where it ends.
I think I'm ready. I am ready. I feel like we just need someone to like mobilize us.
Well, this is like I was saying to somebody earlier, like, there's going to be a spark. There's going to be a straw that broke the camel's back sort of situation where, like, at the moment, it feels like the cost of living crisis is like, yeah, my electricity has tripled, but I can just about manage it if I cut back on this. And with food prices or formula prices, it feels like, oh, that's got to be expensive, but maybe I'll, you know, fewer chocolates this week and maybe one less coffee in the morning. Like, it felt like something that you could just move money around to just sort of manage. And actually, where we're going to be, and I say we as in, you know, everyone, but also specifically me.
Yeah.
In like 9 weeks' time, shit's going to get really real for a lot of people, and it won't be long after that, I don't think. Like when people are being distracted and sort of obfuscated against, to make them not look at their energy bills with things like, does God have a penis, or you should be angry about Shamima, that will work, that will get them so far. But when people start renewing their mortgages and they go up by £900, and that's on top of a tripled energy bill, or if it's their rent because their buy-to-let landlord is passing on the increased mortgage to them, and so then their rent goes up £900 a month. When people are faced with that kind of financially ruinous reality and they've got nothing left to lose, and it's the choice of, you know, sitting there and letting the economy buttfuck you, or jumping in your car and going to Whitehall and, you know, filling up a Molotov cocktail, I seriously worry. Like, I'm not advocating for that, but I know that people are stupid. I know that people will be impulsive and angry, and they've got a right to be angry, and something like that will fucking kick off. And every day the clock is ticking down to that happening.
I think you could be right. I mean, bloody hell, if we were the French, we'd have been out.
Oh yeah,
ages ago. The French love a riot, and so I think the last riot was about the pension age going up, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The pension age going up to less than what it is here. They have got plans. Tory government's got plans to do the same for us. And
people will just go, yeah, I guess I could work a bit longer. Yeah.
Yeah. Work till you're dead.
In France, they striked, whatever the word is, over whether they were allowed to have like one alcoholic beverage on their lunch break. which I was like, that's fucking amazing.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah. That's going back a few years. I think that was about 2010, 2009. But yeah, we need more of that here. We need to be more like the French in probably every single attribute of our lives. Marina, this has been lots of fun, man. We've been gassing away for a while, but I need to love you and let you go. Thanks for joining me this evening. Guys, if you're not checking out Marina and Gemma Forte's podcast, The Trawl, you're missing out. Do go and find it. Seek it out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as advocated for by none other than Gary Lineker and James O'Brien this week. So yeah, go check that out. I'll be back next Wednesday for the solo show, and next Friday with a guest who I have yet to book. So there you go. You're going to have to stay tuned to me, or keep it locked to my Twitter to find out who on earth I'm going to go and book next. Thanks very much, guys. Until next time, stay safe. I'm outie.